Hello, everyone. It is me, Jay, your DM. I use he, him.
Hi, it's Maz this week. Hello. I use they, them.
Hello, Maz. Welcome back to the program. It's been a minute.
Should we calculate how many minutes? Do you think people have time?
No, I don't think so. But, you know, it's always a pleasure to have you back on. Maz is a frequent guest of the Discord, so, you know, the Inside Check crew is never far from Maz, so...
You're giving away all my secrets. All my secrets, man.
So this is kind of a special one. We're a little short-handed this week with PAX East and a China trip taking away a large chunk of our staff. And then, of course, Double Dad's doing Double Dad duty. So we have that.
You said duty.
It's fair. It's fair. I did walk straight into that one. I walked straight into that duty.
I got to keep up the silly level since everyone else is out.
Absolutely. It's been a while since Jerika hasn't been on. So, like, the silly levels are already taking a hit right there.
I will do my best.
Yeah, I mean, we're all pale Jerika substitutes, but I think we bring something special to the table that, you know, is something that's unique. What I bring is the ability to just talk a lot really quickly.
That I have noticed. And, I mean, well, Jerika is an experience, as we all know.
Mm-hmm. As we know. Typically, we start off this, whatever you want to call it. Some have called it a debacle. Others have called it a podcast. We generally begin by doing a dungeon crawl.
I did not prepare a song. I'm very sorry.
No, yeah, I also did not prepare a song. If you'd like to hear a wonderful song, just skip back 2 episodes to when Embers was on, and there's a very wonderful Portal reference in there.
It was a good song, and then what no one else heard apart from, like, us, is Air got his guitar out and re-recorded it for us with a guitar.
Yeah, we got a private viewing of an Air original. Maybe someday a more polished version will make its way out of the secret chambers. Maybe not. That's just the kind of gamble you live when you talk about things that we have no plans for releasing. Because I honestly don't know what Air's plans are with that. But he was really good. He's got a beautiful voice.
It was awesome to listen to. Yeah, so I thought I'd give away some secrets since you've given away mine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what good is a 2-person cast if we don't just, you know, take this opportunity to just reveal all of the others' secrets? Let's see.
They're not here to stop us.
Yeah. Embers is 150 years old.
Nah. He's looking good, though.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't look a day over 110, which is great. Okay, but seriously though, the dungeon crawls. You have one, right?
I do.
We'll take yours first. Guest, go first.
Oh, thank you. So recently, my friend Satine Phoenix has started up a new venture called Gilding Light. Is it Gilded Light? Might be. Hang on. Yeah, but this is her new enterprise in which she brings together various artists of all stripes to collaborate and create together, whether it be storytelling, whether it be musical, whether it be other mediums, illustration, poetry, all sorts of things. And that's going to be her new venture, like, that she's branching out with. She's focusing on that now.
I see. So Satine's kind of got like an umbrella that all of Satine's projects are now under, sort of.
Yeah, because
Gotcha.
I don't know if you're familiar, but with her artwork, she does some amazing artwork. She's got the sirens.
I was not aware.
Yeah, you should check out. She sometimes posts some on her account. She's got the sirens, obviously. She does a lot of work. Like her friend Jason Charles Miller releases music. I think Amy Vorpal releases music and things, and I think, like, sometimes they might get involved. And just other artists in that area, because they're all in, like, the LA area. They all hang out together and that sort of thing. So it's a little home for people. Like, I'm not saying that these people are going to be working with Satine. I'm just saying these are the sorts of people that she is, like, spending her time with.
Maybe as a little preview of what's to come, I did see in the D&D tag, which I constantly troll, I did see that Satine had posted a call for people to name female creators that they knew to Satine. So apparently Satine is compiling a list of female creators for something coming up, so that might be related as well.
Honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. It would be pretty cool if she did that.
Yep, interviews and stuff like that. Who knows? It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be nothing. You heard it here first. We just talked about something that could be anything or could be nothing. The quality content you've come to expect from Inside Check.
It's the content that your listeners crave. It's exactly what they're here for.
You know, I want to talk about something that is near and dear to both of our hearts.
Please do, Jay. Please.
Which is, of course, Wizards of the Coast yearly tradition now of supporting the Lambert House.
Yay!
So they have just released a new storefront, updated from last year, with a ton of different products, all bearing the WotC or the D&D logo, but all done with kind of the rainbow coloration. And it's like a ton of projects. It's those cell phone holders, it's mugs, it's little mouse mats.
I think they've got
notebooks,
flags, magnets,
glasses. They got sunglasses.
What? I didn't see those.
Yeah, they have Gear Up for Pride and help support the LGBT youth with these sunglasses that have the logo on the side.
And not just the D&D ampersand logo, but they also have the magic logo as well.
Yep. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, man, I got my t-shirt last year and I just love wearing it. It's so cool to just be, repping
Yeah, I see
Pride.
them everywhere.
Yeah, just rep the LGBT community, rep Pride, show your stripes, your rainbow stripes.
It's two great things that taste great together. D&D and supporting the LGBT community.
Indeed.
But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we brought that up as we continue forward. It just seems like something that would be relevant to the people who listen to this show and that they may have missed, because it can be kind of easy to miss these things. And of course, we'll link that on the Twitter. If you look on our Twitter feed, it's probably already linked because I'm doing it now in the past.
And I already retweeted it a couple days ago, even more in the past.
So you can come look for our tweets in the past, which means that in your present, it's already done. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for anything.
We might even do it again in the future. Not just our future, but your future.
Anything is possible, but let's hold our horses. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. If we start messing with the timeline too much, we don't want a situation by which we kill our own grandfather, or we accidentally cause a butterfly effect. That was a terrible movie. We don't want to cause that movie to come into existence.
I don't really watch movies, so I haven't seen it, and
You'll just have to take my word for it.
Yeah, it sounds like I've made the right choice.
Yeah, it was a movie where a guy got the power to go back in time, and every time he did it, he just made everything worse until eventually he killed himself, and that fixed everything.
That sounds like the sort of thing we would do. We'd just keep making things worse.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was a pretty grim take on time travel, I have to say. But this isn't a show about time travel. It's a show about tabletop RPGs, and more specifically, generally speaking, talking about dungeons and then occasionally dragons. And today we are discussing some dungeons.
But Jay, what if my game is about time travel?
Well, good news.
It's on brand.
Yeah. The good news is, if your game is about time travel, you have already talked to us, and we don't even know yet, because we've also got that mastery of time now. Releasing podcasts here and in the future, we've learned many things about the secrets of manipulating the folds of time. Go look at our Twitter feed, and you'll see that we've already answered your questions about time travel.
See, now you've got to go and answer some questions about time travel, and everyone's going to be very confused.
Absolutely. I have to go...
Until the episode
I think
drops.
the phrase is like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah, no, they're going to be really confused, like wondering why you're answering questions about time travel, and then they'll listen to this, and then they'll be
know
like,
that we're warlocks
whoa!
with mastery over time. Exactly.
I'm Jerika. I use she, her.
Welcome to the podcast, Jerika.
An experience appears.
I'm so happy to be here.
Even though we already talked about how Jerika wasn't in this episode for the first time in a while. It turns out we're liars, and we're just gonna keep lying.
I hear that's what makes a good DM.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna find out we don't know anything about the future, Jay. Stop saying we're liars.
Yeah, I predicted that this would happen. It's all in the Twitter feed. Behold, behold the past. Anyway, okay, so we are going to talk today about running your D&D game out of a module. So adapting a module into a game and how that process goes. We were asked this question by user No Tom to Lose. Love that username. Tips for how to run, interpret, adapt published adventures. Could range from how to prepare and present them to troubleshooting to how to customize for your player's style. So that was the original question. We thought that this was a pretty good prompt for a whole episode of discussion. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a whole episode of discussion.
I think the first thing you need to do with your module is, like Tom has done with his name, is just come up with an amazing pun. Let me elaborate. I'm running Curse of Strahd still. I was running it for 2 groups. 1 TPK, so there you go. I'm running it for 1. But we play
Rest in pepperoni.
FFF. We play on a Thursday. The reason for this is so that I could call it Thurs of Strahd.
Is that the only reason? I mean, it's branding.
That is the only reason we play on Thursdays.
Wonderful.
And that's how you run a module.
And if things get steamy enough, it could become the Thirst of Strahd.
When doesn't it become the Thirst of Strahd? As someone on the outside looking in, I can only assume that the point of Curse of Strahd is to woo everyone.
That's that is certainly how it goes a lot of the time. Tatiana is, generally speaking, though, the far more appealing NPC in that campaign.
I think
like
it
cool,
depends
tough
on your
leader.
type.
I can't remember which group of mine it was. I think it was the group that TPK'd. But they managed to screw that up royally. And Tatiana got captured by Strahd right at the start.
Yeah. It can happen. It can really go off the rails with old Tatiana. I believe the TCA crew got Tatiana killed in the first couple episodes, so...
Oh yeah, Strix did a hold person and she fell off the horse.
Yeah, so it can go real bad with old Tatiana. You gotta be kind of careful. A tough, cool NPC, but somewhat fragile in the HTTP department.
F.
Yeah, so absolutely. Giving it a cool name, that's a great place to start. And I think the more general application of that advice, though, is like customizing it. So, like making it your own. Thurs of Strahd, that's where you start. You have the funny joke to start it off with, right?
I do have proper advice. I just wanted to get that in there.
No, listen, Thirst of Strahd is good. It's valuable content. It's what we're here for.
It's on brand for your podcast. I'm just doing the job Air would do if he were here.
I mean, better, I think. Honestly, it's an upgrade.
I'll take that. Don't tell him.
Air's used to it by now. Don't worry. I have a particular brand of love.
He complained. He's like, if he doesn't get a "Dad, please no" from me at least once a day, he feels like he hasn't done enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Air's dad jokes are they're something else. But yeah, so when you get when you get an adventure module, it has obviously everything's laid out for you. It's all in order. They have a sequence of events, a timeline that you are expected to generally follow. But it can be really hard if you just do that. Like if you just go into it and follow it exactly as it's written, it can be really hard for your players to see themselves in that adventure. So I think that the whole point you get an adventure module is so that you don't have to do a ton of work. Like most of the heavy lifting is done for you. But I do think the one area that it is worthwhile to invest some time in is how do I tie my players into this story more? How do I take what they've given me about their characters and place that in the world here, in this narrative, and make it still be about them? Because I don't want my players to feel like NPCs in somebody else's adventure. right? I think a lot of the WotC adventures take that into consideration. They kind of frame things so that the players are going to be at the center of the story. A lot of times that's sort of general, just like the players are the leading actors in the story. But how do you roll in their backstory? You know, how do you roll in their history? That kind of stuff is where I think a DM needs to apply a little bit of their time towards getting it, like, customized. Taking Curse of Strahd and turning it into Thirst of Strahd. That's where the transition happens, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, Curse of Strahd is the only book module I've actually run. I've got a few of the other books as well that I've looked through and used things from for my own needs. But when I first started running Curse of Strahd, I found it really, really difficult because I was a slave to the book. I was like, right, you must... like, this is what this person is like, and I must do this like this. And I felt like I was on rails, not that the players were on rails, but I was on a rail because of this book. And it wasn't till I sort of, like, it clicked in my head that I should just be using the book as an inspiration and a guideline, as a vague sort of, like, arc, that I suddenly felt that I could do more with it and be more free with it.
Yeah. Jerika, you're a big fan of DCA, right?
Yeah.
When Chris Perkins runs an adventure module, I don't think Chris Perkins ever feels beholden to the adventure. Like, those things unfold pretty wildly different.
The deal. Dragon Heist in DCA so far, well, from what I've seen, has been like a house modification game. Which I don't think is how it's written.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a home ownership element of the original adventure, but I don't think it's a center stage as it is in the DCA
That
arc.
house is the fifth player.
I mean, you know, don't count Paulton, don't count Diath, it's fine.
Who would?
Oh yeah.
Shit. All right.
I'm here for Evelyn. I'm here for Strix. I'm here for Evelyn. I'm here for Strix. That's it. Just kidding.
You're not the only one.
Thinking about the time through Tomb of Annihilation, they never went in the tomb. The titular Tomb of Annihilation, they never went in there. Like, the whole adventure, they never stepped foot in the Tomb of Annihilation. But that's just the way it goes sometimes at your table. Sometimes the adventure module is a location to set an adventure in.
Yes.
Sometimes the adventure module is a villain that you can pit against your party. Like in DCA, I think that's what he's doing. Mostly he's taking these villains and pitting them against a party. And the actual treasure hunt aspect of it is kind of like way in the background, like way back there. Out of sight, out of mind. And I think the same thing for Tomb of Annihilation. It was like a cool setting for them to romp around in, and a cool affliction to create drama. That's all that Perkins wanted out of that adventure, and that's what Perkins got. Mm-hmm. I think that being beholden to the adventure is absolutely the first thing to break your mind of. Like, for me, I ran Tomb of Annihilation, and I ran it fairly by the book. So they went through the jungle, they got to the tomb, and I was just sitting there looking at this massive tomb, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sneak in some stuff from the Acking Live show. And if they manage to catch it, great. And it broke the whole dungeon. And they ended up skipping 90% of the dungeon's content. And that's okay by me, because it was funny and it was interesting, and they felt like they had done something clever to this adventure. Like, they had a unique sense of ownership over this adventure because they broke the adventure. They got into the back works of the dungeon. They got into the gears and the mechanics and sneaked around where they weren't supposed to be. And that felt exciting to them because it's like, oh, we're doing something we shouldn't be doing, which means that we're breaking this adventure. But it's like, that made it personal.
I have to say, like, the most compelling thing besides the mean sword that I hate and will forever hate about playing Rise of Tiamat and Hoard of the Dragon Queen was that we got a black dragon egg in, like, maybe the first third of Rise of Tiamat. And I'm sure there's a contingency in the actual material for, oh, the party saves a black dragon egg. But we carried it through the whole adventure. We made sure it was safe. It hatched eventually, and, like, I always ask about, like, the dragon. And I'm sure like that wasn't meant to be as big a part as it was, but for me and for a lot of the other players, it was something that we really thought it was great.
But that's Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah.
Like you made an interesting choice, and interesting consequences came out of it. You suddenly had to protect this fragile egg. You suddenly had to be invested in this tiny, weak dragon.
And it got us straight into the RP. Like, we making decisions to be very careful about an egg aren't necessarily the most efficient choices or the most, well thought out game-wise. But heck, if Jerika wasn't gonna be godmother to that egg.
Absolutely. So yeah, first things first, make the adventure your own. I think my other major advice would be in the way that you approach the book, because I think that there's, generally speaking, an overwhelming amount of content in an adventure module, and it can be kind of discouraging to a DM to like sit there and read the whole book. They're not really written like novels where they're fun to read, where there's a mystery on every page and it's all exciting. It's written very mechanically and it's laying things out. So I think one thing that you can do as a DM to make your life easier is skip to the end, read about the villain, figure out their motivations, read what they're up to, kind of read where the plot's going, and then read it one chapter at a time and skim the chapter ahead. I know in Tomb of Annihilation and in Waterdeep Dragon Heist, they're broken down into chapters. Is Curse of Strahd like that?
Yes, it is. But the thing with Curse of Strahd is the chapters might not be in order because of the Tarokka reading.
Ah, okay, so that's going to influence that. But you'll know as a DM after you've done the Tarokka reading what the order of the chapter should be.
Also, I want to bring up a couple of other things that you can pull in to help flesh out and help yourself with the thing. Firstly, if you are running a book module, Sean, Power Score RPG, he always reads through and does write-ups of every book module. And sometimes he compiles it into a guide and releases it on DM's Guild. If not, it's released in sections on his blog, Blogspot site. We can put the link up.
Yeah, I use that for Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah,
really
his guides are really, really good. I used his Curse of Strahd one, and it helped me get my head around the story so much more easily because he posts a summary, he breaks it down for you, he even suggests a way to run it. But also another thing that you can do, I realised this yesterday because I was trawling through DM's Guild looking for some adventures, picking some up.
Why could that have been?
I don't know, Jerika. Maybe there was a game that some of us were playing. But yeah, you can also pull the relevant Adventurers League season adventures, and you can pull elements of those in because they will directly relate to the book module in question. So, like for Curse of Strahd, there were modules based around each of the Tarokka cards. And there's I think there's one Teos did that was about like a sort of clue murder mystery type thing. Or I think I read that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I ran some smaller Adventurers League adventures from, I think it was Rise of Tiamat. And they had like cultists as like a, the general bad guy and, that related
Yeah, there's like a through line that's tied into the book plot, yeah. I remember during the Adventures League, during the Tomb of Annihilation stuff, it was all set in Chult, so it was all Chultan adventures, different things in Nyanzaru you could do, stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can just pull bits of those in. You can just chop out bits of the book that you don't need and pull in things from Adventurers League to make the story more personalised and make it more your own as well.
Did you chop any significant parts of Strahd up into little pieces, Maz?
The readings we got were kind of weird, so there were whole sections that my players missed out. Like they didn't go to the Abbey or the Markovia Abbey.
Oh wow, that's a bummer.
Yeah, that sucks a bit.
The Abbey's really cool.
Yeah, because a lot of the mongrel folk are there. Yeah, but currently they are in the Amber Temple and it is not going well.
It very rarely does go great.
Yeah, one of the PCs has currently abandoned the party and has gone somewhere, which I won't talk about because that might spoil it if any of my players do listen. So that player's rolled up another character for the time being.
Oh boy. Oh geez. But yeah, so definitely looking at those, customizing the adventure to your own taste and removing parts you don't like and adding parts you do like and taking things from Adventures League is just going to give you, first of all, more content, but then it's also going to make it more personal to your players and more personalized to their interests, because a lot of times a pre-made adventure is not going to fit every table. So having all this extra content that's free and cool is great. As a DM, I would take notes on the adventure as I read it, although the Power Score RPG notes are going to fill in a lot of those gaps, but it can be overwhelming, the amount of information that you have to take in, especially when you're doing something like the Tomb of Annihilation dungeon, remembering all the traps and triggers and stuff like that. And then also when you're skimming ahead for the next chapter to like kind of know what's coming up or what you should be building up to, you should also use some foreshadowing. So if you know that a villain's going to be appearing in the next chapter, you might want to have them, walk by in chapter 1, and then that sort of builds up the intrigue around that figure, so that when they show up later, it's like, oh, it's that person. We met them once. We should have stopped them.
With a large feather in their head.
Absolutely. A nice little cameo, and people who are familiar with the Forgotten Realms are going to eat that up, because they're going to know Jarlaxle right away.
It looks like Chris Perkins.
Yeah. Mysterious.
I have to say, this is tangentially related. I wrote I think it was like a 7 or 8 session short campaign. And I wrote it like I had my ideas before I had the character concepts from the players. And so as I was getting tidbits about the players, I could say, oh, okay, I can fit that in maybe over here. Oh, I can fit that in over here. And a lot of my sessions later on had to deal with like demonic stuff. And luckily for me, one of my players decided to be a tiefling, and there was a demon in their backstory. And I was like, well, maybe their demon is this demon. There was just enough things that I could connect their backstory to thematically that kind of made it interesting, I thought.
Yeah, definitely tying it into their backstory and finding those ways to drop those things and integrate them into that world. It just goes towards that personalization that really makes the adventure feel special.
Yeah.
And yeah, the last thing that I would offer is my last piece of advice on running adventure modules would be, if you've never run an adventure module, run an adventure module. Because I do think it's very helpful to see how professionals write an adventure, what kind of details they include and don't include. It has certainly changed the way that I prep adventures after I ran Tomb of Annihilation. I don't know that I would run modules full time. Like, I think I'm pretty, I like have a lot of fun just sort of being loosey-goosey and making stuff up on the fly. And I feel a little weird when I'm beholden to the rules of another person's setting. But it was really cool to see how they wrote down NPCs so that they were quick and digestible, how they modified existing stat blocks for NPCs as opposed to making whole new stat blocks, how they used, SRD content to create these NPCs so that it was really quick and easy for everybody.
Here's a captain.
That stuff has definitely taught me a lot as a DM.
Here's a Meru.
Yeah, like here's a thug. Here's a thug, but their AC is this and their HP is this instead.
Yeah.
Or they have like this to hit and this to hit. Those kind of things have totally changed the way that I prep. Like, my NPCs are so much lighter and easier to make now. So I definitely advise running an adventure module at least once. It's very helpful. It's almost like they know what they're doing. What about you, Maz?
I do have one last piece of advice. Things like Tomb of Annihilation and Curse of Strahd have some very, very complicated maps. And this is probably strange, and it's probably a lot of work for some people. But for me, I found it really, really helpful to actually build the castle in Minecraft.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did that. And it took a little while. But then I could, it was 3D, and it was there in front of me, and I could actually walk around the castle and look at it all. And
And people could translate that a million ways, like drawing it.
Yeah, exactly. You could redraw each level out.
Build it out of cardboard.
Some people do that.
Yeah, people have different ways of like learning things and remembering
Internalizing it, right?
things. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that idea a lot, because being able to like see the space around you, that's such a cool way to familiarize yourself with the place.
Yeah, and it
like
really,
that.
really helped. And I think when my players do get to the castle, I've still got like the files from when I built it. So I'm going to like screen share and run it, and they can actually walk through the castle as they do that part of the adventure.
Very cool.
Ooh, that is very cool. I like that a lot.
But yeah, that's probably a more extreme way of doing it, but there are other ways. Whatever works for you, really.
Yeah, but the basic advice of like familiarizing yourself with the spaces, because they are kind of complicated and intricate, is really going to help. I know in Tomb of Annihilation, the one I had a lot of struggle with was there's a series of chambers that turn according to how you pull knobs and levers.
Oh yeah, the gears.
Yeah, visualizing that was really hard. But fortunately, I had bought the map on Roll20, and they had a roll table that I could cycle between that showed the room in all of its different states. And that helped me a ton. Accessing the content in different forms of media, whether that's building it in Minecraft or getting it in Roll20 or drawing it out yourself.
I mean,
or
yeah, you
changing
could,
it.
You could draw, if you were doing that level, you could draw a little map and then put like the actual things on like those split pins so they turned, so you could actually rotate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could like cut them out and put them on the paper and rotate it. Yeah, whatever you have to do. Get crafty, you know? DMing is all about getting crafty, coming up with clever solutions to weird, quirky edge case scenarios.
Yeah, it's not just the players that have to come up with these things.
Because the worst thing that you can do as a DM, or not the worst thing, but a difficult position to be in as a DM is when you describe a place using the description in the box, but you haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the location, and your players ask you to explain something, and you don't have the answer. You don't know. Like, you were just hoping the box would explain it to them, and so you're just like, well, and then, so you're reading it again, trying to figure it out, and they're like waiting there, and it takes everybody out of the experience. Like, oh, okay, like, do you not know how this building works? Oh, I do. It works like this. Yeah. So familiarizing yourself with it beforehand and figuring out the 3-dimensionality of the space can definitely help you with keeping it flowing smoothly in the session.
Yeah, that actually reminds me is I almost never read box text straight out. I always paraphrase it as to how I understand it from my reading through. So it makes sure that I know that I've understood the space by using my own words to describe it.
That is probably very good advice, because I've been in the situation where I've read the box text and I didn't know what it meant. So they asked me about it and I was like, you see something on the wall. And then I'm like reading the box text again while they're investigating the wall. I'm like, okay, let's...
Yeah, because there's nothing, if you already know the layout of the area, there's nothing stopping you from throwing in extra details that you know from the layout of the area.
Yeah. You can always, getting our Matt Colville money here, you can always have Orcs attack, at any moment. So you can always just fall back on Orcs attack whenever you need a distraction.
I don't know what this place looks like. Orcs attack.
They're like, so could you explain that again? I can't. Orcs attack. It's rolled, and it's not necessarily... Orcs attack doesn't necessarily mean orcs attack. It just means that you do something to distract your players.
I have a friend who... She runs Vampire the Masquerade a lot for my friend group, and when the boys are talking too much and are talking too much about their explosives or what have you, she'll say, roll decks for a piano that's falling on you. I like that.
That sounds like a great DM.
Yeah, she's good.
That sounds like a person I would want to play games with. I think that generally covers this particular topic, unless anybody else has any last advice that they'd like to make sure that they get in there.
Just give it a go. Just give DMing a go if you haven't. Just do it.
Yeah, I mean, Lost Mines of Phandelver is free, and it's an award-winning adventure, and it comes with the standard rules that are also out there for free, so... and running an adventure is a great way to get started, because it's a lot less preparation for you, the DM. All you have to do is read what's already written down, as opposed to creating it all yourself. Yeah, just give it a go. I like it. Our new catchphrase. Inside check. Just give it a go.
Do we still get to keep eat and snack?
Eat and snack.
Is the best catchphrase.
That's like our aesthetic or our mantra. Yeah, eat and snack. Don't forget to eat and snack. I hope you were eating and snacking while you were enjoying the show.
Pause the podcast now and go get
eat and snack.
An eat and snack. and then come back. Well, I have my pipe here, and I'm going to put some snuff into it. Or I don't know if you can smoke snuff. It's going to be an interesting experience.
Do you have a calling card?
Do you?
We should exchange them. It would be ripping.
Indeed. This
I'm
has
so
been
glad.
Insight Check. If you would like to leave us a message anywhere on the internet, we would definitely appreciate it. But we definitely appreciate the services of Amy T. Falcone, who does our artwork, and Vince Svept, who does our musical accompaniment. But
Answering your cues from our collectives
this
was
Insight.
check.
Check! So this week there was no cut content from the episode, but I didn't want to leave you without something funny to go out on. So I thought I would read a real post on r/D&D, reddit.com r/D&D. Here's a real post that I'm going to read to you now. And hopefully that will give you the entertainment you need in this segment. If I'm a druid and I transform into an ant, climb into a dragon's asshole, then expand, would that kill it instantly? Thank you, everybody, and good night.